Hello, hello. If you are watching this video, then I am trying something new. I think that this is going to be a lot quicker to do than the letter thing. You're going to have to write down some words, but I think that we can actually be done in 5 minutes or 5 to 8 minutes instead of 8 to 10 minutes. So let's give it a try. So if you're watching this video, write down at the top of your paper. And if you don't have pencil and paper or pen and paper, then stop the video, go get pen and paper because you're going to need it. Okay. So if you are listening, you're ready to go. So write at the top of your paper, 8th grade history, or write 8, H-I-S-T, period, and then write 10.2. That means Unit 10, Lesson 2, 10.2. So 8 history, 10.2. Okay. So what we're going to do is our questions and our answers while we're going over it. So today we're going to be looking at Johnson continuing presidential reconstruction after Lincoln was assassinated. So let's come down here and we're going to start with some vocab first. And as you can see, 2 of the vocabulary words are going to be your answers. Now right here with credentials, this is answer number 1 right here. And then right down here with repudiate, this is answer number 2. So if you want to go ahead and start writing those, I'll tell you about these vocab words while you write down 1, credentials, 2, repudiate. Okay, here we go. What are credentials? Credentials are documents that entitle a person to privilege. What does detested mean? To be disgusted with. Epic is of great size. Ravages means to damage and destroy. And repudiate, which you should have already wrote down for number 2, answer number 2. Oh, the question was, what do you call it when someone is refusing to pay debt or refusing to acknowledge debt? That's repudiate. So put that down. And then systematically means following a well-designed plan. So question number 1. Documents that entitle a person to privilege are called blank. And you should have wrote down credentials. Question number 2. Refusing to pay debt is called, and you can write repudiate. Some people might write repudiation, which is the same, but repudiate's great because that's what they put here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at, and again, your answers are always in yellow so that you can see answer number 3 is Johnson, so you can already go ahead and write Johnson down. So what did Johnson do? He continued with the Reconstruction Plan, and his Reconstruction Plan had 4 basic points. First, all the states had to meet the requirements of Lincoln's 10% deal. Next, they were included in the Proclamation of Amnesty. And third, they had to elect new senators and representatives, because those old senators and representatives are the ones that caused the war. So they're like, get rid of those guys, bring in the new. And then they had to ratify the 13th Amendment. So what is question number 3? Let's go back and look at it. Who is the president that enforced the Reconstruction Plan that had 4 points? Who is the president that formed the Reconstruction Plan, which had the 4 points? Okay, so now let's come look at this. By December 1865, all the former Confederate states had joined except for 1. Who was the one? It was Texas. So, your next answer, Texas. By December of 1865, all of the former Confederate states, except for blank, met the terms of readmission to the Union. So you should be writing, oh crap, I don't like when it does that. So you should be writing down Texas. Now what was I? Oh, I want to figure out. I'm so sorry, guys, but I want to figure out what number that is because I lost track of my number. 1, 2, 3, 4. So Texas is number 4. Okay. Get ready to write down number 5 because I'm moving on. So number 5's question is, who detested the choices made by state governments for congressmen? Who detested the choices made? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's the same group that detested everything coming from Johnson and Lincoln. And it's also the answer here in yellow, the radicals. So the radicals detested the choices made by the state governments for the congressmen. Many of the men had high-ranking officers in the Confederate armies or men of position for the Confederate government. They were angry that Johnson, the other thing that they got really PO'd about was that Johnson did this on his own without going to them. So the radicals are like, hey, this isn't cool. You need to ask us for help, and you didn't have the right to do it, and we don't like these guys. So who detested that? Question number 5, radicals. Okay, let's get ready to write down question number 6, and we are almost finished here. The number of representatives allotted to each state is based on what? So this is the question for number 5. The number of representatives allotted to each state is based on blank. If you got the answer of population, then you have the right answer. So write down population and we will move on from there. It just talks about the 13th Amendment and how when the southern states lost their slaves, they lost some of their voting power. Okay, next we're going to take a look at military cuts and the impact of the war on the soldiers. So, Confederate soldiers, that's the soldiers of the South. There's no more Confederate armies. They're gone because the South lost. And since the Confederates are the South, then no more armies because they're not needed because they don't exist anymore. So they return home and their lives are destroyed. Their camps are destroyed. Their fields are destroyed. Their houses are destroyed. Their group of being Confederates is gone. So they had a big change, the Confederate soldiers. Now, for this answer number 7, you can either write down Confederate soldiers or you can write down the South because it's the same thing. So I'll accept either one. And if you put down the South, I know you're listening. Okay. So anyway, who returned home and their life really wasn't that much different? It was the North. So the North was fighting the South. The North was winning. The North went into the South and took over all their land and destroyed it. So when the guys from the North went back home, things weren't really that different. So because things weren't really that different, their life was pretty much normal compared to the people that went home to the South. So I don't know why this didn't highlight, but I'm going to get this taken care of here. It's so weird it won't highlight. Let me try one more time here. I got it. Okay. So anyway, yes, here we go. Number 7, Confederate soldiers are the South, and number 8, the North. Question number 8, which soldiers from where did not have great change? And it was the North. Now let's look at how the soldiers were being treated. A lot of soldiers lost their lives. They came back different because war traumatized them. So my question would be, what was one thing that was good for the vets when they got back home? For those soldiers, there was one good thing that happened. And if you look here in yellow, you see that they were treated as heroes. So number 9 would be heroes. How, and the question was, how were the soldiers treated when they got home? So now we're at 8 minutes and we're done. Enjoy the rest of your day. Try to get 2 lessons in today. I'll give you also another video lesson in another subject.